I'm logging on ayahuasca.
This is the story of how a plant medicine called ayahuasca changed my life and possibly even saved it. We did a 7-day jungle walk through the Peruvian Amazon where we met with a local tribe known for their spiritual ayahuasca ceremonies. That's not what happened at all. As it turns out, you don't have to go into the Amazonian wilderness to find ayahuasca and a good shaman. But before we get to where, let me answer the what. Because what is ayahuasca? It's a plant medicine that has been used for thousands of years in South America. With its hallucinogenic and spiritual attributes, ayahuasca is known to heal the body, mind, and soul. That's the short version. I've linked to the long version down below. Back in Madeira Island where I live, my friend and neighbor Giovanni had talked about ayahuasca for almost a year. According to him, ayahuasca is the savior. I've always known about ayahuasca, but I never really understood what it does. I thought it was just a crazy feel-good drug that jungle people like to do. I was wrong, and after seeing a number of documentaries on just how powerful ayahuasca can be, it was safe to say that I was on board. The ayahuasca ceremonies were arranged at Wanka, Tanka, which is a 30-minute drive from the beautiful city of Florianópolis in Brazil. Giovanni had done all his previous ceremonies here, which was comforting since we knew we were in good hands. Over the last decade, ayahuasca has become increasingly popular to the point where your airport taxi driver will ask you, "Hey, do you want to do ayahuasca?" People jump straight into it without really knowing what it is, and sometimes even under the influence of alcohol, and that can be dangerous both physically and mentally. You need a shaman to guide you through the ceremony, especially if things go south. And I think without a shaman, I would have been left in eternal misery. This video is all about showing before, during, and after ayahuasca, and how it has changed my life for the better, and in the end, probably even saved it. My goal with this video is also to remove a lot of the stigma associated with hallucinogenic treatments. I think the important thing is to always keep in mind that ayahuasca is a plant medicine. It has literally nothing to do with MDMA, cocaine, meth, and all the other drugs that governments and authorities love to put in the same basket. So it all started the 21st of November 2021. This is where our preparation started after several weeks of heavy boozing and partying in Rio de Janeiro. When you read up on ayahuasca preparation, most articles you find give you a strict plan to follow. Alcohol is a no-go, and while quitting 1 week before is enough, many ayahuasca retreatment centers, they advise as much as a full month. We stuck with 7 days since partying was too much of a priority. In addition to alcohol, you also have MAO inhibitors, you have SSRI antidepressants, and they are absolute no-goes. So in fact, when you hear about ayahuasca being dangerous and even life-threatening, it's because of stories where people simply haven't done their research beforehand. So people who just jump straight into it without really knowing what it is. And that's why you need to take it seriously. In terms of food, you also need to follow a bland and, in my opinion, boring diet. That means no meat, fermented foods, dairy products, ripe fruits, spicy, and fried foods. This is an example of how clean the soul has to be before you jump into this. No spices, no red meat, no basically anything. But my girlfriend can cook. So most of the ayahuasca documentaries I've seen, the ceremonies are held in the middle of lush jungle away from civilization. I didn't know what to expect as I hadn't seen photos of the actual place. Turns out that it was just a normal house with some funky ayahuasca decoration. I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, as I expected something more exotic and secluded. But remember that this is also me before ayahuasca, always prone to negativity, and as you will learn in this video, there is a big difference of how I am before and after ayahuasca. Anyway, we were here to meet the shaman Samantha. This was mainly to ask any questions we might have, but also manage our expectations. However, Samantha wasn't there. Instead, it was her daughter Agatha, who is what I believe to be Samantha's apprentice. She made us feel super comfortable and equipped to our first ceremony, although my anxiety didn't completely disappear. One of the things that we've been told to spend some time on is finding the intention. What do we want to fix about ourselves? I'd like to be less about always seeing the doomsday scenario in every situation there is. I always imagine the worst things that could happen. And that's a problem, that it tears on the quality of life. But to wrap this into one intention is pretty hard for me. So I guess my intention is to be less worrisome and enjoy life on a more consistent level instead of the yo-yo life. I'm sick of that. So we have 3 ceremonies planned. One today, one in 3 days, and then the third one 3 days later. Initially, I didn't want to film any of the actual ceremony because it's personal. It's, you'll be puking in a bucket, might even shit your pants. So what I decided is that I will bring the camera and then see what's what, but I won't film during the ceremony today because since I have 2 more ceremonies, I might as well do it in one of those. I think it's safe to say that I won't continue as a vegetarian after ayahuasca.
You haven't even been a vegetarian on ayahuasca.
Sure feels like it.
Mother Nature is preparing us. Wim Hof, man. I've been doing the Wim Hofman method for the last day. And it really makes a difference the way you breathe. I was ready to have my first ceremony, and I was doing everything I could to prepare. And breath work is actually one of the most important tools in the event that ayahuasca shows you something that is hard to handle.
Breathe in. Breathe out. 3 minutes.
3 minutes and 9 seconds of holding my breath. That's crazy.
After the breath work, I meditated for 20 minutes. I'm nervous still, of course, because you don't know what's coming. You have an idea, you heard horror stories of some of the things you can see, demons that are buried deep down inside yourselves. Even though the drive from our apartment was only 30 minutes, it felt excruciatingly long, and I kind of hoped it never ended. It was kind of the same uncomfortable feeling I remember from school exams, where I was never prepared and usually also flunked. Eventually we did arrive though.
Your destination is on the left.
It's actually happening.
This was the setup. 4 mattresses for me, Amalie, and our 2 friends and neighbors, Giovanni and Andrea. The room had a wonderful scent coming from the incense, and this was one of 16 cats that roam the land of Tanka. Lots of dream catchers were in place, and hopefully they work. I remember my immediate thought to be. This is a portal that allows bad energy to flow out where the good energy flows in. And this is also where our shaman, Samantha, spends a lot of time, it turned out. This was a moment where we finally got to meet Samantha. And when I told her I wasn't sure about my exact intention, she calmly responded that I have a noisy mind. This was within 5 seconds of having met me. A noisy mind couldn't be a more accurate description, and I felt immediately in good hands. Equipped with a puke bucket, it was finally time. The taste of ayahuasca is known to be supremely horrendous. It can best be described as licking the nightclub dance floor at 5 in the morning. But honestly, I didn't hate it. Should I take it like a shot or?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I put it here? Yeah. You can do
It reminded me of a liquor we have in Denmark that is called Branca. And maybe that's why I needed to quit alcohol. But we'll get to that later. Anyway, the ayahuasca was now in my system, and it was point of no return. I assumed the most comfortable position possible, and soon Samantha and Agatha started singing and playing. I remember lying there on the mattress feeling overly confident. I was like, come on, hit me with what you got. Show me what you can do. I was so cocky that I was in the mindset of having swallowed a party pill. And that was a big mistake. So as a first timer trying ayahuasca, you get a small dose, as some people can be overly sensitive to it. So I didn't feel much the first 45 minutes other than having very vague visuals. Then, when I got the second shot of ayahuasca, things got pretty wild. Quickly, I had strong and clear visuals, but they were colorless. Maybe it's because I'm colorblind, but this was consistent throughout all ayahuasca ceremonies. At least when my eyes were closed. Anyway, I felt pretty good, but with a somewhat anxious gut feeling. It was like I was anticipating something bad to happen. And then the happy visuals instantly turned into a dark and gloomy nightmare that would go on for 3 to 4 hours. I was scared straight and I felt miserable. I was crying uncontrollably on and off. Anyway, I remember Samantha, she came over and put this rose quartz on my chest next to my heart. She was doing shaman stuff and suddenly she said, I see you, as if she could see exactly what was happening inside of my brain. Although she was giving me comfort, she wasn't trying to make it go away. She said to me, the medicine is healing you and you need to let go. It's very hard to explain what ayahuasca feels like. I think it's important to understand that it's a plant medicine. For me, there was no buzz or high. I would simply go in and out of my colorless visuals, in addition to on and off sitting up with open eyes and feel painfully sober. After 4 hours and what felt like an eternity, Mother Aya said goodbye, although I never really got to meet her. Many say that ayahuasca gives a strong presence of a female spirit or energy, which is also known as Mother Aya. During my first ceremony, that wasn't the case. So I was back to normal with the notion that this nightmare was rooted in reality. I went home and talked about my experience with Amalia and eventually fell asleep. At this point, my brain was fried like a melted power plant. I decided to not document my ayahuasca experience since it was just emotionally too overwhelming. Weirdly enough, I had a strong sense of mental clarity and relief. My noisy mind had turned into deafening silence. I felt amazing, but still with the convincement of what had transpired was real. Luckily, this was just my stupid brain playing games, it turned out. I can't really go into detail what happened exactly because that's how graphic and horrible and just imagine your worst nightmare comes true. That's basically what happened. The shaman, Samantha, I called her Shamantha. She said that I should probably come back the following day to kind of understand this experience. And I did. It was so weird. I come in and she has this little bowl of water and then she has some herbs and flowers and then she puts them down in the bowl of water and a cat comes and drinks of the bowl. I mean, it was surreal, but somehow she used this to talk about what happened and everything she said made sense. It was so crazy, and normally most people would be like, screw that mumbo jumbo, but everything she said made sense, and she told me things that only I knew, that she somehow knew. I don't know how that works. Maybe she's done ayahuasca so many times that she's seen it all and she somehow can connect the whole universe. I would believe that because she's done more than 700 ceremonies. A long story short is that I kind of feel reborn. All the negativity, all my catastrophizing about everything that's going on in the world, always pointing out the bad thing in any situation has reversed almost. I don't want to make myself out to be a shaman apprentice just yet, but I'm probably getting there. I'm wearing an emerald necklace while I'm caressing my rose quartz here. That's the kind of effect ayahuasca has on you. Jesus Christ, I would never imagine myself sounding like this. In the end, ayahuasca, Mother Ayahuasca, she doesn't give you what you want, but what you need. Having Samantha, the shaman, to guide you through this is honestly unbelievable. Just when she hugs you, you feel like crying. It's like you're hugging something different. It's like the energy, it's like she just goes right through, she sees everything in you. I'm scared of what might transpire tonight, but I'm also open and willing to face it because it will make me feel better. Upon arrival, and to my relief, Samantha told us that she has designed the ceremony to exude happiness and joy. That was very comforting, although I was still convinced that I was about to be brutalized by Mother Aya. Yes, I did feel reborn after the first ceremony, but keep in mind that this was my only experience I had with ayahuasca. I didn't know what else ayahuasca was capable of. Anyway, I've learned that the most important thing is to let go and accept what is coming. And so I did. And what a remarkable journey I was about to embark on. Suddenly, everything was overtaken by an immense feeling of joy and happiness. I started smiling, grinning, and then eventually laughing. I looked around and saw both Amalie and Giovanni doing the same.
It says low battery.
It was like a burst of energy that made me want to move around, but it took some time before I summoned the courage. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to walk around, but eventually I learned that Mother Aya will lead the way. This time I felt the presence of Mother Aya. Finally I got to meet her. What an amazing person, or God, or spirit, or whatever she is. I remember walking around the room, laughing myself to tears of just how beautiful everything was. It was a funny way of Mother Aya to tell me that there is beauty in everything, and that my initial disappointment was based on a false premise.
I'm logging on ayahuasca. Connected to the grass. It has been saying low battery for what feels like eternity. And it usually only blinks when there's less than 10% left.
And at that very moment, my battery died. Talk about timing. Somehow I was able to find the car keys, then the car, and then a new battery. Anyway, this was where things got really special. I'm still convinced that Samantha purposely set the stage to show at least me what I needed in my life. Her son was there throughout the ceremony, and it started with Samantha dancing with him inside. Then later she moved outside, and somehow the whole swimming pool was filled with kids. It's like they came out of nowhere. I was drawn to the pool where I was sitting for a while before Amalie joined me. In addition to the stage Samantha had set, Mother Aya was showing me just how important it is for me to grow a family. I've always wanted children, but I think that immaturity and my ego have kept postponing it. I haven't been able to convince myself that children are a blessing, not a curse. Of course, this whole stage could be interpreted in various ways, and Amalie had a different experience, so we're still not entirely on the same page when it comes to having children.
I think this might be the first ayahuasca vlogging in history. But I can tell you that this has been such a beautiful experience. Long story short, we're having a baby. Or I want a baby. I want a son, I want a daughter, and I want them to dance with us in a little circle with Lara. Wouldn't that be lovely? I swear to God, time goes so slow.
At this point I thought the trip was over, but I was completely wrong. Mother Aya was just getting started. Almost immediately after getting into the car, I started laughing uncontrollably.
There's a bump coming.
My body was filled with the most amazing feeling of all time. Life literally couldn't be better at this very moment. On top of that, I was having strong visuals with open eyes. I'm pretty sure this was the DMT going full send. It was incredible sitting in the car following the road. It was like warping left, right, up and down like a roller coaster while my brain was exploding with happy chemicals. I wanted it to never end. At this point, I was the only one still feeling the effects of ayahuasca. I think Giovanni and Amelia had been out of it for at least an hour. Mother Aya was playing me in all directions. Like, I went from uncontrollable laughing to sober moments of powerful realizations.
So say what you were saying with the alcohol.
We live in this world where alcohol is such an ingrained part of what we do. Friendship. It's almost like the fictional Mother Ayahuasca in the concrete jungle we live in. What I'm connecting with right now is the true jungle, you know, the real jungle, Mother Ayahuasca, not that fake shit. But how do we remember that when we go back to our normal lives? Because this is not gonna last forever. Remember that, Jon. Enough with the alcohol. It's actually destroying your life, your relationships, yourself, like
Your health.
It's only gotten worse with the years, more and more and more. It's like no point, you know, no senseless, like ruins my productivity, everything that has purpose in life, it ruins. So how do you keep this in mind?
I think you'll have less of a problem because you got rid of a lot of negativity. You don't have to drink anymore to suppress energy that's blocked or anything, right?
Yeah, that's
It continued like this the whole drive back, and Giovanni was kind enough to drive around the town for another 15 minutes as I kept just talking about anything and everything. After the drive, we went for a walk on the beach, and I just felt invincible. It was truly spectacular. Around 2 o'clock we went to bed, but Mother Aya was still in a party mood. It's like it was just, she never stopped. Getting to know Mother Aya was just awe-inspiring. She's like 10 steps ahead of you, and everything she shows you is for a reason. You might be confused at times as to what is going on, but then moments later, boom, you suddenly see the big picture. Her intelligence is insane, and her humor and comedic sense, just hilarious. I mean, she would wipe the floor with any stand-up comedian. It was like hanging out with a long-lost soulmate who knows everything about you and everything you need for inner peace and happiness in life. We had discussions about everything in life, and I was bombarding her with all my questions and problems in life, and every single time she would come back with a meaningful response that altogether, piece by piece, would be chipping off the big rock of trauma and negativity I've been carrying on my shoulder for so many years. Mother Aya kept me company until 5 a.m., making the trip an epic 10 hours of just wow. It was, yeah. I can't explain just how insanely beautiful it was and how life-changing it was. I feel smarter, more creative. It really opens new pathways in the brain where you just connect things easier. I'm a little bit nervous for the last ceremony tonight, the third and last one, because I will definitely not have such a fun trip as last time. I feel that there's some more bad energy that has to leave my body. But again, Mother Aya gives you what you need, not what you want. Oh yeah, another revelation was modern civilization. How the world we're living is such an illusion. The whole career goals and money and wealth doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't give you anything in the long run. It's like temporary gloriness, and then you just want more. That's why billionaires and everything, that's why they never stop. They always continue, want more and more and more. The 100-meter yacht is not big enough, I need 200-meter yachts. I'm not exactly preaching to the choir in terms of my old self, because that's the way I've been living, I want that watch, even though I already have 3 nice watches. I always want more and more and more. I don't know if I'm just gonna move to the jungle and hug trees and shit, but that's kind of the life that Mother Aya was showing me. Good thing we live on Madeira, because that's where you can live that life. So, 3 times the charm, they say. Yet again, I went into the ceremony with somewhat of an anxious mind. My thought was that since the second ceremony was so incredible, it was payback time.
Oh, den hård i dag.
But even though the ayahuasca itself had gone from decent tasting to vomitingly bad, I continued on the same beautiful note I had left 3 days earlier. I was having such a beautiful experience, which left me pondering how is this possible, and what is the message Mother Aya is trying to give me this time.
Mãe natureza,
It took me some time to reach the conclusion, but eventually I was guided to another powerful message, yet so simple. All the things that could go right. This was a beautiful response to my continuous anxiety before each ceremony. You know, every time I was expecting the worst instead of expecting the best. Somehow I've become infatuated with cats. I never liked cats in my life. They have such a holy spirit.
How are you feeling?
Nauseous. I'm so nauseous.
Okay.
I don't know why. It's like Mother Aya is telling me to purge, but not enough to actually do it. So maybe I should just breathe and be happy. I think that's the lesson here.
Okay. And cut.
Ultimo abrazo. Vamos a voltar a próxima.
Which is in 1 month.
This was a very emotional moment. The 3 ceremonies had changed my life, and I had built a very strong bond to Samantha and Agatha. I literally consider them like close family. Somehow, ayahuasca told me I should film here. I don't know why. Maybe as a reminder that nature is calling. My entire life, I've always been focusing on all the things that could go wrong, all the things that will go wrong. It's so liberating to change that mindset into something positive. I've been a thief of joy in my own life for so many years, and it's still pointless to just be negative all the time and pointing out the bad things instead of pointing out the good things. It's a simple message, but it's so hard to convince yourself of. So I'm wearing this t-shirt with a lobster, and the lobster somehow connects to me very deeply, because I remember a story. It was a YouTube video with an old long bearded man who talked about how a lobster grows a new shell.
And it points out that a lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining. Right? And the lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. Well, eventually, that shell becomes very uncomfortable as it grows, right? Back under the rocks. Good. And the lobster repeats this numerous times. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable.
And I think that's kind of a good analogy for this whole experience, because I feel so much stronger mentally and capable of dealing with all the things that makes me anxious, that scares me. You know, I've been spending a lot of time worrying about the world and where we're heading and all that. But after Aya, it's so much easier to deal with. I'm able to find joy in life, which I realize I haven't really done for the last 2 years. Like, I lost complete touch
with reasons to live, and not that I've been suicidal or anything, but just like almost like a clinical depression, negative and scared and angry. This is like 20 years of daily sessions with your psychologist compiled into 1 week or 3 ceremonies. We already talk about coming back here next year, maybe every 6 months, to do 3 ceremonies. 3 ceremonies won't fix all your problems in life. This is a continuous thing you have to work with. 33 years of life experience and poor mindset and all that. It takes time to fix that. And I still have a lot to work with. I'm positive and all that, but there are still things where I'm like, you know, where I'm reactive instead of just being acceptant.
So now I'm sitting here 90 days after my first ayahuasca ceremony. I thought it was important to see it through and make sure that all these positive effects were lasting beyond the first week. So you might wonder, is life all wonderful and happy? And the short answer is yes. But I need to tell you about the aftermath of ayahuasca, because there is a story. Ayahuasca kind of killed my need for alcohol, and I didn't drink for the following week after the last ceremony. Slowly though, I started having 1 to 2 beers with lunch and dinner, and on the flight back to Portugal, the 12th of December, I was having a healthy number of beers and white wines. From there, it was all downhill. We had 3 days of non-stop partying in Lisbon with our good friends who are always a bad influence. And then onwards in Denmark, we had 2 weeks where I was drinking 2 to 3 bottles of white wine every day. Sometimes a bottle of gin would sneak in. We were celebrating New Year's Eve here on Madeira, where they have the most insane fireworks on the planet, and things got even more wild. I had a 2-day rager with way too much alcohol and Adderall and just stupid stuff. The interesting thing was that my mood was good. I was disappointed in myself a lot, actually. I felt that all the goodness that has come out of the ayahuasca ceremonies had been all for nothing, you know. Here I am again drinking like there's no tomorrow, and I even feel like I did get close to no tomorrow. One evening in Denmark, I was particularly heavy on the booze. We're talking like 3 bottles of white wine, most of a bottle of Tanka. I don't remember much, but apparently I passed out on the living room floor, and my dad and Amalia was trying to get me back to life, but I was just out. Like my father, he thought I was dead. I don't know if I was close to dying from alcohol poisoning, but this particular experience somehow haunted me. I could see how alcohol was killing me in slow motion. After the crazy New Year's Eve rager, I woke up with a truly awful day. This was the first time I've had a bad day since before ayahuasca. I felt like the old me, and I hated it. Our bad influences from Lisbon were also here to visit, and that means the drinking is always heavy. But the day before they left, the 7th of January, I decided to quit drinking alcohol once and for all. This time something was different. I felt a sense of clarity and calmness about the decision to not drink anymore. Something has changed because I don't feel like I'm missing out. Of course I miss a 50/50 GT Sipsmith 57.7 with a blue Mediterranean fever tree. That used to be the meaning of life for me. Usually they say alcoholics, they have this thing called euphoric recall, where after a certain period they will look back at alcohol with a fairy tale mindset that, oh, life is so much better with alcohol, like completely forgetting all the negatives. I don't feel that way anymore, and I hope it continues. I could talk for quite a while about my sober as well as my drunk life. So much, in fact, that I started another YouTube channel called Sober. I've linked it down below if you're curious. My mood is good almost every day, And that's a big deal when you look at my track record. Since early 2019, I've tracked my mood every single day and notice how many average and bad days I have compared to good ones. So I think to sum it up, my spiritual journey with ayahuasca has opened my eyes to a new world. I feel reconnected to what matters in life. Most of my habits have gone from bad to healthy. So far, taking ice baths every day is the best new healthy habit. I'm the closest I've ever come to inner peace. To sum it all up, I think ayahuasca has saved my life. Perhaps literally, but definitely spiritually.